we are off. All right. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Enjoyed the extra day off from trading. But all right, here we are. We are back at it. A little bit of a quieter week this week as far as earnings season goes. We're starting to wind down, although we are kind of starting to look at NVIDIA earnings, which is not this week, but is it next week or in a few weeks? I can't remember. But as far as the Mag 7 goes, they're pretty much out of the way except for NVIDIA. So that's the one that we're going to keep an eye on until they report. But here we are. As far as everything else goes, there's a few interesting names out there. You got Etsy and Carvana. Yeah, I mean, Walmart, that'll be a big retail name. Block, I know several of y'all have been trading Block recently. Wayfair, another retail name to kind of pay attention to. Few energy names such as Oxy and Devon sprinkled in here and there. But for the most part, yeah, not that exciting out there. We also have a little bit on the economic calendar aspect goes. Today we had our holiday. We also had some commentary from Harker and Bowman and Waller. And I think it was Harker who was saying that they are going to be pretty nimble as far as the rates go. They're not going to be in any kind of hurry to cut rates. They're not going to be in any hurry to rise rates, increase rates. They're just going to take their sweet little time because things seem to be in a nice little balance and they want to keep it that way. No need to break something that is not, in fact, broken. So here we are. But yeah, as far as the main thing this week, the key thing to keep a focus on is going to be the FOMC minutes, which comes out on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That is just the prior minutes from the last meeting that we just had. So that'll give us a little bit more insight as to their reasoning for everything, keeping rates steady and anything that that might be sticking out to them. And then we just kind of end the week with the flash manufacturing and flash services PMI on Friday. So we close the week with a little bit data heavy for Fridays. The PMI, the revised University of Michigan consumer sentiment and inflation expectations. That is definitely something that we need to keep an eye on. But for the most part, relatively quiet, nothing too crazy out there. So that's nice. So that gives us to our technical points here for the week ahead. Now, the SPY had a really good Thursday session. We finally broke out of the pattern that we've been kind of stuck in, this little channel, so to speak, where we were essentially putting ourselves with slightly lower highs and slightly lower lows. We finally broke out of that on Thursday. And then, Friday was a wee bit interesting because we got ourselves this little bit of a doji candle right at new lifetime highs. We did print a new lifetime high at 610.99, but we did not close at new all-time highs. We just poked above it and came right back down. Volume was relatively below average, but needless to say, bulls are still very much so in a good spot here. It seems like every time that the bears tried to take us down, we just rallied back up. Bears try to take us down, we just rallied back up, and this time broke out. So bulls definitely doing a pretty good job here as we get into new all-time highs. But the main thing, when we do these sessions, we want to look for relative strength or relative weakness, any kind of warning signs out there. And, when you look at this, it does seem pretty good. We're at a mid-bull score, 26 out of 50. Not bad. We're trading above all the key moving averages, above the 21, above the 50, above the 200. We have a nice daily squeeze here. And this was one of the key talking points last week, was that we were in a nice daily squeeze on the SPY, the Qs, and we had nested squeezes within those daily squeezes, such as the hourly, and it looked like, whichever way those squeezes were going to fire out, that's the direction that we were going to go off of. And if we bring this into an hourly, we can see that that definitely has pretty much been the case here. We broke out of this hourly squeeze that you can see here on the right hand side. We broke out to the upside, broke out of the pattern, and off we went. So now that that has done its course, is that going to be enough to trigger our daily squeeze to fire to the upside and ultimately spill over to the 2-day and 3-day squeezes to fire to the upside, in which case that could send us moving on forward? And if we measure the move from the swing low to the swing high to the swing low, our initial target is going to be the 612.39, which isn't too far away. And then we have a much larger target up here at about the 626 level if momentum kicks into gear. Now, one thing that we need to keep an eye on, and you can also confirm this with RSI, I believe, is that even though that we've made these nice little slightly higher highs here and momentum looks to be good, there might be a little bit cause of some concern here. If I zoom this back out, you can see here on the oscillator that I have, and you can confirm this with MACD, probably RSI as well. This is on the daily chart on the SPY. We can see that here's a high, but momentum doesn't seem to be quite there. In fact, momentum has been slowing down. So yes, we can take that as a slight warning sign for maybe a pullback to be on the horizon. But for now, we do want to give the benefit of a doubt that yes, this could be in play. It's not the end all be all, because price is ultimately what pays. And until we start to see a bigger breakdown, then we can safely assume that bulls remain in control here. So yes, price action looks good here for the bulls. Bulls continue to defend. There is a slight warning here on the SPY daily chart that, momentum isn't quite what it seems. So just to kind of, keep that in the back of your head as we move on. Now, this could obviously correct itself over time. And this could, if momentum were to, if things were to break down, it could take some time to develop as well. So it's not a thing that we should be screaming out loud like, oh no, we're at the top, it's going to be all doom and gloom from here. No, this thing does generally take some time to set up. In fact, we still have some strong bullish thrust to the upside that could get us above this 612 and towards 625. So for now, we just continue to listen to price action until we get some sort of big major reversals, and until then, that doesn't seem to be the case. Bulls seem to be pretty good in charge for now. Let's move on to the NASDAQ with the QQQ. Qs definitely did a better job on Friday. Well, we could argue that the Qs did not make a new all-time high, but the SPYs did. However, the price action was definitely more enjoyable for the Qs than they were for the S&Ps, whereas the S&Ps kind of struggled to have a decent little candle here. You can see that the bulls had a wider range session. Didn't quite hit new all-time highs at 539.15, but things are still looking pretty good here. Strong bull, almost a nice 50 score here on the board. If things do want to break out of this daily squeeze, then we are looking at a price target of around 547 to 550. We do have that same situation here where price is going higher, but momentum is looking a little bit rougher, but this could continue to go up and then negate that. But you still have strong bullish thrust on that signal, so that looks pretty good as well. We could have some sort of pullback, maybe a retest of this 533.82. Wouldn't be such a bad idea for bulls to kind of retest and then go. But as you can see, it seems like every single time that the bears get some sort of dip, you can almost see that almost all the candles are just pretty much bought back up and off we go. So Bulls continue to be in control. Now, as far as broadening out, yeah, there's probably a good argument to be had here, but of course, small caps are definitely going to have the tougher aspect of it all with higher rates for longer and not having rate cuts. We don't quite seem to have that broadening out into small caps just yet, and it does seem that small caps continue to be pretty much stuck in this box between 230 and 220, 270. And until then, we're just kind of sideways. We're stuck between the daily 200 and the daily 21 EMA. We are in a daily squeeze. The oscillator is a little bit more in a yucky position, and we also have bearish thrust to the downside. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on if small caps want to break down and lead the way, and maybe we could get a retest of the daily 200 in the near term. So I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. As far as the Dow goes, not too bad. Financials doing a really good job at holding the Dow components up, as well as industrials. We are in a neutral bull situation here with a score of 20 out of 50. We are in a low compression squeeze to coincide with SPY, the QQQ, and it looks like, we do have a good opportunity here to break out of a potential bull flag pattern here on the on the Dow, and this is what I'm pretty much looking out for. If we can break out of this pattern and get into new all-time highs at about 451.55, we can see that the oscillator has printed out a new up print here. If we can continue to improve on that, and the thrust signals, just waiting on a new up signal here, and all should be good. But we are trading above the rising 21 EMA, the relatively flat 50, and a rising 200 simple moving average. So looking at the Dow, it looks pretty good. Like I said, financials continue to be pretty darn impressive here. They have outdid themselves. We had this nice little range here between 49 and 47.5. Broke out of this, hit our targets at about 51, even hit 52 and some change, and now we're just sitting at lifetime highs as well with a max bull. And we've seen lots of names within this sector. JP Morgan continues to be impressive. You got Citi, which was on my radar on Friday, had a big breakout on Friday. We'll see if we can get some continuation off of that. Wells Fargo continues to look pretty impressive. Bank of America looks like it's trying to set up for a new move with its daily squeeze. And Bert B also had a really solid move as well on Thursday. A little bit of a pullback on Friday. But nonetheless, financials continue to be quite impressive. Industrials, not too bad either, taking a little bit of a breather, but we do seem to be we've had a little bit of rotation, back into the XLK. As you can see here, XLK looked like it was going to have a tough time pulling back to, white screen of death there. That was a whiteboard feature of my drawing tools. We can see that the XLK pulled back just briefly to the daily 200. It seems like we've launched ourselves back up. So we seem to be stuck in this range between 241 and about 225. If the XLK can break out, that will definitely bode well for names like Apple, which Apple has had a really nice week last week. Did not have it had a one red day there on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all nothing but shiny green candles there. And it looks like we're trying to recover its earnings report news as Apple bulls try to say, you know what, we're still doing all right despite Apple not producing anything crazy with their new iPhone. In fact, I even switched my iPhone this weekend. But yeah, their other services seem to be doing pretty well, and Apple continues to be relatively strong, and that bodes well for the XLK. Microsoft, on the other hand, is just kind of sitting around with its hands in its pocket. Not something that I really want to touch other than like maybe a day trade here and there. But yeah, mid-bear score, minus 32. Nothing too crazy. As far as semiconductors goes, yeah, had a nice little dip after this breakout of 262.26. Then you had the deep seek situation, and we're trying to recover off of that. Seems like, maybe we'll get some insight whenever NVIDIA does report their earnings in not this week, but next week. We'll get a few insights to see if spending on some of these AI chips are starting to slow down or what. Personally, I don't think so. And, it seems to be a bad idea to bet against NVIDIA. They always just blow it out of the water. But needless to say, NVIDIA pulled back down, even closed below the daily 200, but that didn't seem to spook too many people out. Didn't seem to spook or, garner any enthusiasm from market bears because they pretty much just took their profits, and that's been about it. You can see the volume's been declining here past week or so. So bears, probably just celebrated their victory. And, in order for bears to cover, they have to buy to cover. And then that's pretty much what has happened here. NVIDIA's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 10 days positive lately. And we're coming back up to this 139 level, 140. The 130 level was definitely the key area for NVIDIA to break out last week. We got that, and off she went. So we could see some continuation here. I want to actually get rid of some of these levels here. I want to see if it can get to the gap fill at about 142.62. I would rather treat this as a day trade setup more than anything. There are definitely some very interesting setups throughout the semiconductor realm. I definitely like Broadcom, AVGO. We can see here with Broadcom, it's more of in a neutral spot. That's mainly because of the oscillator. But as you can see, we are in an overall. Where's my pen? There it is. There it is. We can see that we are in a nice little mini Darvis box here, trading above the 21 EMA, above a rising 50, above a rising 200. No squeeze, but we do have a fresh new upward signal here, as well as new bullish thrust here. I'm looking for a breakout of 238 to push us back into the 250s. For Broadcom, I do like probably a debit spread for this one because Broadcom contracts can be a little bit on the pricier side of things. I'm also keeping an eye on HWM, Howmet Aerospace. This is not a name that usually comes up, but look at this beautiful trend here that this thing has. I'm surprised this hasn't shown up on Johnny Pool's scanner, but look at this thing. Big breakout on earnings with large volume. That's what we like to see. Strong bull, score 36. Tomorrow this should probably be a 50. Nice bullish squeeze. We had this breakout here, strong thrust, all the key ingredients here. Missed the breakout due to earnings, so I will look for a little bit of a pullback before moving higher. But HWM looks to be setting up to go higher. As far as the downside, I'm watching NEE, Nextra Energy. Nextra Energy has been in a little bit of a dominant downtrend over the past few months after hitting a high of 86. Trying to hold support at 68. But as we can see here, we have a mid-bear, minus 28 score, as well as a low compression squeeze that is coming out from the mid-level compression squeeze, meaning that squeeze is finally starting to expand. We can see that the oscillator is in a bearish situation where the signal line is steadily moving lower. And then we also have bearish thrust here. So I'm looking for a breakdown of 68 on NEE to continue to push us down towards about that 67, maybe even the 66 mark. A little bit of a slow mover, not as exciting, as something as like, NVIDIA or anything like that, but that's okay. There are a few names I am watching as far as, a wait and hold kind of thing. Qualcomm seems to be in a little bit of an interesting spot as it's pretty much wedged between the 200 and the daily 50. We are in a daily squeeze. The oscillator did push back to the upside, and you can see that the signal line is moving higher. We do have thrust to the upside as well. The key question is, can it break above the daily 200? So that's one of the things that I'm going to be waiting on and keeping an eye on this week as well. Another ticker that I am keeping an eye on is Chipotle. Chipotle seems to be in an interesting spot as well, where we have a mid-level minus 32 out of minus 50, momentum minus 24, and we are trading below the trailing ATR. We do have a daily squeeze, but it looks like it needs a little bit more time to set up. However, we are in a negative environment on the oscillator with negative thrust here as well. So I'm looking for a breakdown of about 55.5. And if this happens to occur, then yeah, what's our next key level? And honestly, you don't get a whole lot because they didn't really build up too much support to the downside, but I am going to be targeting about that 53 mark. We can also, measure these moves here and say, okay, if we are in a range here between 59.50 and 55.50, what is that? That'll take you down to 53 and 51.50 respectively. So Kava taking up Chipotle's business. Yeah, could be. Let's take a look at Kava and compare the two charts. Yeah, Kava looks a little bit better than Chipotle, that's for sure. I don't think we have anything Kava related around my neck of the woods, so I don't know. I assume it. Now, I do love Chipotle. I do love some of their stuff, so I'd definitely be down to try whatever they have to offer. But yeah, Kava, they also got earnings coming up too, so that could be something to keep an eye on. But for Kava, yeah, let's see. Pretty neutral going into earnings. I would like to see it get back above this like 150, 153 mark. So nothing too crazy happening here. You can see that the squeeze momentum is starting to shift. The oscillator's in a neutral bullish position, which just, kind of confirms that this is not trending. And you could see that, the thrust signals are to the downside. So, it is kind of one of those names that probably wouldn't touch going into earnings, so to speak. But yeah, let me... Kava restaurant, known as Kava Grill. It's a Mediterranean fast casual restaurant chain. So it's like a Greek. Let me see. What's their menu? Oh, that looks good. Okay. It's like looks like it's the healthier version of Chipotle. Yeah. Okay. They got like wraps and stuff. Pita wraps. Okay. I'd definitely try that. I'll have a good pita wrap now. All right. Same model as Chipotle, just better. I hear you. It looks good. Lulu. Lulu was on my watch list for some upside, but we couldn't crack the code here at 419. So look at that big ugly candle there on Friday. So if this thing wants to break down, yeah, I'm looking for a gap fill towards 344.80 on Lulu. We got a shift here on the oscillator. New thrust to the downside. Now we could just hold support here and bounce back up, which is fine. We'll just stay in this box until we break up or break down. But this is something I definitely want to keep my eye on this week to see if we, hold support at this 367 mark or if we break down and move back towards this gap fill at about 345. Let's see. WFRD. Yeah, let's take a look. WFRD. Weatherford. What do y'all do? Let's see. They're an American multinational oil field. Okay. Oil. Let's see. Let me take a look at XLE real quick. Energy's been kind of sideways. Energy's been kind of quiet for the most part. Let's check out crude oil. They make filtration equipment. CL. Baby, I can pay you to kiss. All right, so crude oil is an obnoxious green box, and that is an obnoxious red box. Let's see. I don't want to view. Am I still holding Amazon puts? Yeah, I'm still in those, still hanging in those. All right. So WFRD. All right, so we had this nice little downtrend, big candle on Friday to get you back above the 21 and 50. Okay, so on Thursday, and then you had a pullback here. All right, we got a shift here, weak thrust. As far as I see it, and you're still trading below the declining 200, this is definitely the signs of a dead cat bounce. Let's see. Yeah, I think this is just a dead cat bounce here until, I would at least want to see a close. Let's see, that would give you a new higher high. Yeah, 75 might be a good spot. You did have some good volume here. You've been having actually some pretty good volume lately throughout this. Let's see, you got a shift on the oscillator. This is no trend because we're still below 50. New signal here. Okay, no squeeze. Neutral, score of 1 out of 50. All right. Yeah, until you break above 75 and close above it, I still definitely kind of view this as a dead cat bounce. You can see how you had this nice push to the upside and almost an immediate rejection the following day. And they're paying a 25-cent dividend, which is kind of weird. But a lot of oil names do that, pay the silly dividend. But we do have a shift here. Is this something like a divergence? We can play a divergence for sure. Baby. Let's see. What's this level here? Yeah, you got a little bit of a divergence here. Yoink. See how this made the lower low? This is starting to creep up. I probably wouldn't be opposed to nibbling on this because if you get the big momentum shift here, you could get a nice little run up, especially if you get, Twitter involved and if energy starts to pay up. But 75 is definitely my key level here. Yeah, if we can break above 75, then you can definitely get to moving on this. And I do like this slight divergence here where you made the lower low, but the oscillator is printing a higher low. So that's good. And you also have the new thrust signal here. It's a weak thrust signal, but nonetheless, this is your first up signal that you've had since this up here. And if I go back even further, I'm sure we can probably see how long ago it's been. Let's go to 2 years. Yeah, the last up signal was back in February of last year. It's been a while. Yeah, I'd definitely be nibbling on that. That looks good. To try to bottom feed a little bit and just have your stops, at the recent lows, or maybe this volume node here at about 67. That would be the safe way, just so you don't get caught with your pants at your ankles. Baby. Yeah, let's take a look at Mr. Amazon here, since she's been a pain in the butt. Yeah. So we're still hanging in there. They expire this week. Just brutal. Let's see. Let me just check on the position real quick. Baby. Open up that. Yeah, I mean, we're not down too much. What? Got in at 230. Unless they were trading was like $1.30, so down 100 per con. All right, so Amazon here, we did get that nice break below on large volume. Inside candle, slight range expansion. Drawing tool, here we go. Started to get that breakdown, but she closed back above. So as far as I'm concerned, we're at the bottom of the range, holding on to the daily 50. Yeah, that could spill a little bit of trouble depending on how the market responds this week. But I do anticipate that we will continue to see some sort of move, range expansion, because this is tight. This is very weak candles over the past week. You see how it had this big expansion, then it's just been sideways for the past, I don't know, week, all week. We are in a daily squeeze. The oscillator has shifted gears here, gone from bullish to neutral bull. That's why it says no trend. MACD has also shifted, and we have some weak thrust signal. So as long as this doesn't curl back up and we get a green up signal, I am definitely comfortable holding this. But I do want to see this break down on another good increase in volume here and get that breakdown below 228. I am curious to see how the markets do open up tomorrow. Are we going to gap up? Are we going to gap down? Let me go see. Here's the S&Ps. S&P futures are, what, they're up 11 points. That's not anything exciting. Yesterday, or excuse me, the overnight session today, the range was only 16 points. So, I mean, that's boring. NASDAQ's very low right here as well, but a little bit of bump up. We're still in a daily squeeze there. Yeah, as far as Amazon goes, I'm definitely looking for this range expansion to the downside, especially since we got the squeeze, the daily shift to the downside, and the weak thrust to the downside as well. We just need to break this daily 50 and the moving average players to get out of the way. So yeah, not too bad. Still holding. We'll see if we get that breakdown. And then as far as stops, yeah, stops are still where we originally set them, 231.18. As long as we don't break above that gap, I think we're in a good spot. So that's why I'm going to continue to hold it. And we get that move, great. If we don't, that sucks, but it'll be a timing issue this week for sure. But if it breaks down, that momentum should kick in for sure. Rivian. Good old Rivian. They had a good week last week, Thursday and Friday. I think they reported numbers. Is that, if I'm not mistaken? Let's see. The Tesla killer. Not quite. All right, so we got a level here. 14. We got earnings coming up, so that's kind of a bummer. Daily squeeze. Oscillator is a bullish. We got strong thrust to the upside. Just need to clear 14. Above 14, I think you have a good to go. Up to about 15 and a half, and then 17. So we'll see if we get some follow through, or if it gets whacked down going into earnings. That is definitely the big old question mark on the chart here. But yeah, good Thursday, good Friday. Kind of just playing around the moving averages. You are in a daily squeeze, but you have an opportunity for this to have a good momentum push. So I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Just be in mind you got earnings on what? Thursday? Wednesday? Thursday? What's today? 17th? Thursday. You got earnings on Thursday. But yeah, looks good. I wouldn't hold it. I would like to play the momentum break. I'm not really a long-term buyer on this. Rivian's not something that I play anyway. So I would just play the momentum and either day trade it or short-term swing trade it. That's how I would approach this. Because if we zoom out here, let's go to a 2-year. I mean, this is messy when you zoom out. So it's definitely not a... It kind of reminds me of like Palantir back in the day. It's going nowhere fast. Longer term. So play the short term pops and drops. Speaking of Palantir, let's go check that one out. Yeah, beauty. Was a turd, no longer a turd, but I wouldn't be chasing it up here. Wait for a pullback. Let's see. Oh, UNH. UNH is another setup I am looking for the downside. Looky. If we get a breakdown below 522, I'm looking for this thing to just puke down to about 505, 500. Got a low compression squeeze here. Bearish trend on the oscillator. Bearish thrust as well. I like it. Let's see if this thing can break down this week. That is definitely a big watch on my book, as long as we don't rotate. You know, if we rotate out of tech and go into some of these healthcare names, that would be quite annoying, because I don't want this to go back to the daily 200. I want this to puke and play the momentum. So I like UNH to the downside. And let's see, Zscaler. Zscaler has had a nice little rounded bottom here. Not quite ready for it, to be honest with you. It did have a nice daily squeeze not too long ago. Let's see. So that would have been back here. And then you had the nice little pop, pull back into the 21. And then you go, what I'd like to see now is another little mini pullback and see if we can't break above 218. So it's one of those things where it's like Qualcomm and Chipotle. It's kind of, I'm just waiting to see what happens. Let's see. Let's take a look at gold. Gold is at lifetime highs. Had a pullback on Friday. Let's see what gold futures are doing tonight. You're getting a bounce back off of that. So gold continues to look pretty darn good. And then the dollar. The dollar's been having some issues as well. Rates, I'll have to pull up on this. Let's see. Let's go to here and go to TNX. All right, rates are cooling down, and as long as we don't, break above 4.8, 4.8% is my. Look out! Even VIX is boring. We are in a daily squeeze. You could argue we're at support here, at the lows. Every time we've had this move at 14, you get this pop. You come back down to 14, you get this pop. Are we back here? Are we ready to make another pop? We'll see. But everything seems to be calm with the world. Let's see. I mean, VIX could even come down to 13 if she wanted to. But yeah, squeezing on the VIX. Nothing too alarming yet. We just keep getting these random VIX pops, and then we just give it all away because market bears are chicken. That's the best way to put it. Market bears are kind of chicken. Let's see what else. SPX average 200. The amount of stocks above their 200 simple moving average, about 59%. Not bad. Above 60 is definitely where you want to be. That gives you into a more bullish. This is like neutral bull. Yeah, and I would like it to get above this 63% mark. You can see where, when we were up in the 80s, the market was really, really bullish. And now we're just kind of hanging around the 59, 55 mark. And then when you translate that over into SPY, you can kind of see, that momentum shift that we were talking about. You can see how we're at all-time highs, but underneath the hood, there's some hot steam starting to boil a little bit. It's like, the car needs to go to the shop, but I think I can make it another week. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? I think that's it. Y'all got any ticker requests? Google. Sorry, Booze. Almost did not mean to skip you there. Google. All right. Came down to 181 just briefly. Had a little bit of a bounce. Volume's been kind of bleh since this expansion here. Let's see. We did have a daily squeeze, and then that fired to the downside. This is where you got that move. Not the best move, and these candles are really tiny on the bounces. This is shifted, and we're still in a negative thrust environment. So Yeah, if Google doesn't get its act together, we could easily have an ugly candle here to retest 181. And then if we crack 181, you're talking about gap fill to about 175, retest the daily 200. It's one of those situations where it's like, I don't quite trust it. As far as the bullish aspect, this is an interesting level to play off of, though. I don't hate it, but I'm not in love with it at the same time. It's like, you could nibble here, and then if you need to dollar cost average, I would dollar cost average down at the daily 200. Great long term hold. This is definitely an interesting level. Let me zoom out. Boink. Let's go to here. This is a 2-year chart now. I mean, we're still just kind of hanging around with the prior all-time high. So here's the prior all-time high. Here's this swing. Yeah, it seems like we're just kind of wedged. It's one of those things, like if you're a long-term buyer, it looks good. And if you are, trying to play like an options play, definitely you want time and you want to be patient. Yeah, it's not my favorite thing in the world. It's one of those things, I'd probably like it better as a shares play than doing options, unless we break down below 180. If we break below 181, I definitely want to play puts. But if I'm a long-term player, I want to play this buy at 175. So it's like, if I'm a long-term shares player, I'm buying here, I'm DCA in here, and then I'm definitely buying way more down at 150, loading the boat at 150 if it got to that. Spread maybe, but it's just one of those things. It's like, I like it, but I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. If you get some upside, I would like to see some continuation above 186 and push you back up to 190. Requesting Fuzz's 2025 swing only small account. I do, and I was actually talking about this. Somebody. I was like, I really want to slow down on the day trades and just focus more on some swings. Definitely be better for my nerves. You vote yes? Yeah. See, I think that probably was something that I should probably focus on, and let Lady do her day trades while I focus more on some swings. But yeah, like I said, the market is bullish, but there's some smoke there. But bulls are in control. I 100% have to give credit where credit is due, and the bulls have a great opportunity to push this up to 612, especially with no news. We have Fed minutes on Wednesday. Trump pretty much speaks whenever he wants to, so you kind of have to keep your eyes and ears open for that. Tariff here, tariff there. The market doesn't seem to really care all that much about tariffs, even though they kind of do. And then they're like, just kidding. Buy the dip and we run it back up. So FOMC minutes, that's going to be the key thing. We also got NVIDIA earnings, not this week, but next week. That's definitely going to be the market mover. And then we got PCE next week as well. So I think things are just going to set up for next week, and then we kind of go from there. But yeah, kind of a light week this week, so that's good. So that just kind of leaves me, you spin the top, and what's going to stop this? That's a tongue twister. Stop the top from spinning. Momentum and news, or if you like, stop it with your foot, and there's nothing to stop it just yet. So, got to give it to the bulls. All right. I think that's going to be it for me, guys. Any questions? Ticker requests? Funny dad joke? Or joke? I don't care. Boo-doo-doo-doo. Mercy on me. Let's see. We boring dads. That's okay. Sometimes boring's good. All right. Well, cool. I'll see y'all in the morning. If y'all need anything, feel free to shout. And have a good one. All right. Bye, y'all.